All right, let's talk about one of the biggest buzzwords out there, cloud native. You hear it everywhere, right? Well, today we're going to cut through all that noise. We're going to take this kind of vague technical term and turn it into a clear, actionable business strategy, something you can actually use. So let's just dive right in.
So let me ask you a question. Have you ever had that feeling, watching a smaller, nimbler competitor just zoom past you? They launch some game-changing feature and they're grabbing market share in weeks, while you're stuck looking at a roadmap that's measured in quarters, maybe even years. That delay, that frustration, that's not just an engineering problem. No, it's a business velocity problem. And that is exactly what we're going to tackle today.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to walk through this logically, step by step. First up, we'll define the problem itself, what we're calling the agility gap. Then, we'll get into what cloud native actually is. After that, we'll connect it to the stuff that really matters, the business ROI. We'll also get real about the true cost. And finally, I'll lay out a clear path for how you can actually get started.
All right, let's start with that core problem. We call it the agility gap. And really, it's this huge growing chasm between how fast the market is moving and how fast your company can actually respond. Think about it. In today's digital economy, this gap, it's probably the single biggest threat to an established business.
And this really puts that race in a sharp focus, doesn't it? On one side, you've got that cloud-native competitor. They're fast, they're iterative, they're pushing out updates and new value to their customers every single week. Then on the other side, well, that might be you. A business that's kind of stuck with its legacy infrastructure, it's rigid, it's slow, and major releases happen maybe once a quarter. I mean, who do you think is winning that race for market share? It's pretty clear.
So how do we fix this? How do we close that gap? Well, the answer is this new model called cloud native. But listen, there's a huge misconception here that we need to clear up right away. It is not just about taking your old systems and dumping them onto a cloud server. That's kind of like putting a horse-drawn carriage on a superhighway. Yeah, you're in a new place, but you haven't actually changed anything to handle the speed. Cloud native, it's a completely new approach to building software. To really get a handle on this shift, think about it like this. For decades, we built applications as these giant monoliths. The best way to picture it is like one of those pre-built plastic castles you had as a kid. It's all one single piece. If you want to change one little tower, you risk cracking the whole thing. It's super high risk. Now, cloud native breaks that all down into microservices. And this is more like a castle built from Lego bricks, right? Each brick is its own small, independent service. You can swap out the payment brick or upgrade it, and it doesn't affect the search brick at all. That modularity, that's the absolute heart of agility.
Okay, so these Lego bricks are microservices. They get packaged up in something called containers. And the best analogy here, honestly, is a standard shipping container. The ones you see on cargo ships. It doesn't matter if it's full of bananas or electronics, because the box itself is a standard size and shape. Any ship, any crane, anywhere in the world can handle it. And this solves that classic, infuriating problem of, well, it worked on my machine. With a container, that service runs identically, predictably, absolutely everywhere.
All right, so now imagine you don't have just one of these container ships. You have thousands of them. You need a massive port authority to manage all the logistics, right? To tell them where to dock, what to do. Well, in the tech world, that's Kubernetes. It's what we call an orchestration platform. It automatically figures out where each container should go. If one of them fails, poof, it replaces it instantly. If you get a huge spike in traffic, it scales your whole fleet up. If things quiet down, it scales it back down. It is the brain of the operation, and it's what makes the whole system self-healing and just incredibly resilient. And the last piece of the puzzle here, how do you actually get changes out the door so quickly? The answer is CI/CD. That stands for continuous integration and continuous delivery. Just think of it as your own personal, fully automated assembly line for software. The second a developer commits a change, this pipeline just kicks into gear. It builds the code, it runs all the tests, and then it deploys it, all safely and automatically. This is what transforms a super risky months-long release process into just a routine event, something that can happen multiple times a day without anyone breaking a sweat.
Okay, so that's a lot of the what. And yeah, it's cool technology for sure. But as a business leader, you need to know the why. Why should you care? So let's get to the most important part, connecting all this tech stuff to tangible, measurable business outcomes, the things that actually justify the investment.
When you boil it all down, there are really 4 core strategic advantages here. First, you dramatically accelerate your time to market, which means you can out-innovate your competitors.
Second, you can build systems that are pretty much unbreakable, and that creates massive customer trust. Third, you get true scalability. You only pay for what you actually use, not for what you might need. And fourth, you optimize your costs, and maybe even more importantly, you optimize the time and focus of your people.
And what's really cool is that these benefits, they don't just exist in a vacuum. They create this powerful, self-reinforcing flywheel for growth. And it all kicks off with one thing: speed. Having a faster time to market means you can react to what your customers are saying or what the market is doing in a matter of days, not months.
Now, you take that speed and you combine it with the incredible reliability you get from these self-healing systems, and what does that lead to? A way better customer experience. It's simple, right? When your service is always up, that builds trust. When you can respond to their needs quickly, that builds loyalty. All of a sudden, your website or your app becomes a dependable asset instead of a source of frustration for your customers.
And when you have a superior customer experience, it just naturally drives all the business metrics you care about. We're talking higher conversion rates, greater customer lifetime value, all that good stuff. But at the exact same time, that pay-as-you-go model and the fact that your developers are way more productive, well, that creates huge cost savings. And that frees up a lot of capital.
And this is where the magic really happens. All that freed up capital and that extra engineering time, it gets plowed right back into innovation. You start the whole cycle over again. But now you've got more resources and you're moving even faster. This is how you transform your technology department from being just a cost center into a real engine for sustainable growth.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds really powerful, but what does it actually cost? And that is absolutely the right question to be asking. But the answer, and this is critical, isn't just on the monthly bill you get from your cloud provider. We have to look at the bigger picture, the total cost of ownership, or TCO.
And this really comes into focus when you compare the two main paths you can take: either using a managed service from a cloud provider or trying to build it all yourself, the DIY route. Now, if you look at this TCO showdown, the DIY path seems cheaper on the surface, but the true costs are all hidden. Your time to get something working is months, not weeks. You don't just need DevOps skills, you need elite-level specialists who are incredibly hard to find and retain. And the biggest hidden cost of all? The massive salaries you're paying for a whole team whose only job is to keep the lights on. That's before we even talk about the enormous operational risk that is now 100% on your shoulders. So here's the bottom line. That monthly management fee you pay for a service like Amazon EKS, you have to stop thinking of it as a cost. It's not. It's a fixed, predictable insurance policy you are paying to strategically offload a gigantic, complex, and super high-stakes operational burden onto a team of world-class experts. And that frees up your best people to focus on what they should be focusing on: your business, not fiddling with infrastructure plumbing. All right, so let's say you're on board with the why, and you get the real costs involved. The next question is, okay, what do I do now? Let's lay out a clear, actionable framework to get you started. And the single most important thing to remember here is that this is a business transformation. It is not just another IT project. Look, a successful journey here follows a pretty structured 4-phase model. You got to start with strategy and alignment. That means really defining the business why behind all this. Then you assess and prioritize. Pick one single pilot project where you know you can get a clear, visible win. Next up is the foundational build-out. This is where you construct that secure, automated platform, your landing zone. And finally, you migrate and measure. You actually execute that pilot and prove the value with cold, hard data. And the absolute key here is to avoid that super risky, all-or-nothing, big bang project. Don't do it. Instead, you want to create that flywheel of modernization we talked about. Your first successful pilot, that builds momentum. The lessons you learn from it make the second migration faster and cheaper. It's this iterative process that creates a repeatable model, and that's what de-risks the entire transformation. So let's end with this thought. This shift to a cloud-native model, it's not really optional anymore. It's a business imperative. It's about survival and growth. So the real question for leaders today isn't if your organization is going to have to adopt. It's how are you going to lead that transition? How are you going to be the one to guide your organization through this and capture all of its incredible value?